Well, I spoke to Adar Poonawalla of the Serum Institute of India a little while earlier on some of the challenges in actually manufacturing and keeping pace with what India's requirements for vaccines presently are. How stressed for capacity are you presently as far as Covishield is concerned?
Well, very stressed, to put it quite frankly, because the globe needs this vaccine, and we're prioritizing the needs of India at the moment, and we're still short of being able to supply to every Indian that needs it. That's why we have these restrictions at the moment, and slowly that will ease as the supply position eases and many other vaccine producers also scale up their capacities. And we hope that along with them, even Covishield will increase their capacity to 110 million doses a month. But that's only going to happen in the month of June onwards. So that's where we are at the moment. And we're working with the government. We've submitted proposals to try and work with them, and they will hopefully financially support us also to build more capacity. And that's where we are at the moment.
In terms of more capacity, what exactly is it that you're looking for? And I ask this because there was that devastating fire a couple of months back. As I understand it, some of your capacity was hit over there. Is that what you're looking to overcome now?
So the filling line, one of our additional filling lines was damaged, and that has taken 2 more months to come online. That's why we've pushed the April-May deadline to sort of June-July. But before that, we need to make the bulk drug substance, for which we need to sort of commandeer another building and facility where we're making other products. That is the proposal we've submitted to the government to see if they can financially support us for the capex, at least for that facility, or we would have to then go to the banks. And we're exploring all the options because we remain committed one way or another to supply, the additional quantity and scaling up by June, July. So this is the situation we're in at the moment.
How soon would you be able to ramp up production if you were to go to the banks or if you were to go to the government, assuming that you get the loan that you seek or the support from the government that you seek? If you do receive that, how much time before you can actually scale up?
So end of June is when we would get the additional quantities, because even if we start today, there's an 80-day cycle and period that you go from a bulk product, start to finish, filled, tested, packed, and dispatched. So it's about 85 days that whole thing takes. So roughly just under 3 months.
And what is the sort of expense that you may need to, that you're looking at, whether it's a loan or support from the government?
3,000 crores. It's roughly 3,000 crores, which, is not a small figure considering we've already spent thousands of crores. And, this was never budgeted or planned initially because we were supposed to export and get the funding from export countries. But now that that is not happening, we have to find other innovative ways to build our capacity so that we can support our nation in light of these additional cases and this surge of COVID-19 that has now, unfortunately hit our country.
And you are providing the vaccines at what, 150 or 160 rupees a dose? Is that right in India presently?
That's right.
And therefore what you're suggesting is that at this rate, for you to sustain the requirement for India alone, you would need additional funding, because this rate is not enough to sustain further expansion.
That's absolutely right. The commodity, the average price for this product is $20 upwards in the world. And today we're doing this, and Serum, along with other vaccine producers, have agreed with the government to sacrifice profits. And I hope this will always be remembered, that there is no industry, no vaccine industry on the planet that has agreed to provide their vaccines at such a subsidized price for a temporary period of this pandemic to their own government. And this has been based on the Modi government's request. And we have risen to the occasion, sacrificed profits, I wouldn't say we're not making any profits, but we've sacrificed what we would call super profits, which we would need to further build capacity, innovate, and compete with the Western companies. But we don't care about that at the moment because we want to address the needs of the nation first before anything else. And we can always make the profits after a few months. So that's where we are at the moment.
At this price of 150 to 160 rupees a dose, is it actually less? Are you actually earning less than what you're spending to manufacture the dose?
No, absolutely not. There is some profit at this price, but you know, the profit varies when the volumes go up and down. At the moment, the price that is set is profitable. However, it is not profitable enough to reinvest substantially in building capacity, innovating new vaccines, including the new variants that we may need to develop and make and go into clinical trials and other things. So when you factor all of that in, the answer is no. It's not sustainable in the larger picture. But is it still profitable today on a per dose basis? Yes, absolutely.
All right, and we'll talk about the variants in a little while from now. But at this moment, when India has stepped up to 45 plus in the vaccination drive, how well stocked are you presently?
So we're at the moment producing and delivering everything on a monthly basis, whatever we produce. So there is no stockpile here like there was, you know, in the beginning of January. Everything that we're making, we're delivering to the government of India.
And how much are you producing on a daily, weekly, monthly basis at the present rate?
So we're producing a minimum of 2 million doses per day. So, you know, it varies month to month, but we're between 60 to 65 million doses as a minimum on a monthly basis. So we've already delivered more than 100 million doses so far to India alone, and more than 60 million, just over 60 million to exports.
Yeah. What about your export obligations? Obviously, India is the priority now. That's what SII has been told, and you're honoring that. But what about the other countries? Because it's an international effort to fight COVID.
So it's been very difficult to explain to other countries that for a temporary period of 2 months, we need to prioritize the needs of India over those contractual and other obligations. Of course, nobody is happy to accept that because all those government leaders have made promises to those countries. But I think now everybody understands that the severe and sheer burden and cases that we are seeing in India demands that we service the needs of our nation first, you know, at least for 2 months, and then we review that situation going forward. So that's where we are, and the vaccine industry is 100% with the government of India in doing so because, you know, after all, that's why we are here to serve the needs of our nation.
How effective is Covishield against the UK variant? I ask that because one only assumes that it's a UK variant. It's certainly there in Punjab, that's a fact. The genome sequencing is happening. If it is there in other parts of the country, this is something that people would want to know.
So let me try and answer your question in a way that we're able to see the real results of this vaccine's efficacy. You know, there's been a lot of talk about different vaccines having 70%, 80%, 90%. By what is it? Then is it on the intervals? Is it more effective with 3 months, 2 months? So the proof in the real efficacy is when you give, as I've always mentioned, millions of people the vaccine across a region or a territory. Now, if we look at India alone, forget the other countries for a moment, we have supplied, as I said, more than 100 million doses, most of which have been only the first dose injected into human beings. The claim of the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine of being 90 plus, and in some countries 94% effective against hospitalizations, has been validated because not only is it the Scottish Public Health and the UK Public Health that have put this on their websites, but it's visible now even in India. If we were to go and have a look at everybody in India who has admitted themselves for COVID-19 disease, hardly any of them have taken the vaccine. And if they have, it might be around 5%, which means that 95% of people who have taken the vaccine have experienced COVID disease, but not had to set foot into a hospital and experience severe disease, like going onto a ventilator, having your life at risk and all of that. So this really is very good data and proof that, this vaccine, and it's a big relief to all of us, that, ultimately the real acid test is, does it prevent hospitalization? And the answer is yes.
Okay, so that's good news. So essentially, let me just to try and make sure that I'm getting this right. You are saying that the drug will protect you from hospitalization or serious illness if you contract any strain of COVID. And I asked you about the UK strain. Is that what you're saying?
Well, so far, this is what we are seeing. And I don't want to make any off-the-cuff statement that, against the South African strain, UK strain, it may be as good and protective. But so far, we have seen a lot of the UK strain enter India. We've seen a lot of people who have taken the COVID vaccine and still get infected with the UK strain, but we've seen they've been largely asymptomatic, which kind of sort of validates what I'm saying here. But again, if you asked me this question in January of this year, I could not say this with confidence. Today, we're able to say this against the original Wuhan strain, and as time goes on, if you ask me the same question in 2 months' time, we will have had enough experience of Covishield in other countries and in India to say how well it's working toward the South African strain and the UK strain.
Right.
And there's reason for us to believe that at least against severe hospitalizations, our vaccine should be very, very good. Now, is it going to be 94, 95%? I don't know. But, it's not that it's going to have a very mild level of protection. It's going to be good protection.
What about altering, changing the vaccine itself to cater for new variants? Is that something that AstraZeneca Oxford is looking at?
So we're looking at two things. Not only tinkering with the vaccine to be even more receptive to the South African and other very virulent and other mutant variants.
Yes.
But we're also doing trials to go under the age of 18, which is something everyone has been waiting for. Pfizer and other companies have already started showing good data for their vaccines at the lower age group. So we're doing trials to demonstrate both efficacy against these mutant variants and in a lower age group. I would wait 6 months at least before we can say it's safe and effective for these two new sort of areas that we're looking to cover.
Would that actually require trials in India as well among children when you're ready to do them? Or would the UK data, as in the last case, be only one part of the data and then, you do bridging trials here?
Maybe. Because, the initial safety and efficacy has been established. Now it's only safety and maybe immunogenicity that would need to be demonstrated in the children or, below 18. Maybe a small study in India, maybe not. We don't know yet because we haven't applied to the regulator. We'll go by what they suggest is right. We're waiting for the UK at least to make some headway in this, and then we will, act accordingly and see what to do.
Adar, when I was in Pune and we spoke last time around, you'd spoken about the promise shown by several other vaccine candidates that you were developing. Could you tell us a little bit about how things have changed in, let's say, the last 2 months since we did speak?
So, when we spoke, we were hoping to get clinical trial permissions as soon as January, February, but then that went on till March. And now we finally started the enrollment of Covovax, which is our 89% efficacy Novavax product, which we're very happy to also have them as partners and privileged to be able to make that product. That will go on till the better part of September, October, as I recently announced. to be licensed in India, but we could perhaps look at an export-only license for that candidate even sooner than that period if, we get such a permission from the WHO. The other candidates like the Spy Biotech product also is completing phase 2, phase 3 overseas. We won't do a trial of that probably in India at the moment. I don't think there's any plans for that. And Covishield, which has finally started the phase 1 product trial that we're conducting ourselves, being our product in partnership with them in the UK. So that has started as well, and we'll see how that progresses. But I think Covishield is probably the only vaccine we would be licensed in 2022. The other two products, Covovax and the Spy Biotech product, would be licensed at the end of this year. And if we combine that perhaps with also making Sputnik, which we may do, I don't want to announce anything till we have a signed agreement, that may be also an additional product that we make to a smaller extent based on our limitations of initial capacity, which we'll ramp up slowly for that as well.
You let the cat out of the bag, Adar. You let the cat out of the bag. So Sputnik, tell us a little bit about where things stand as far as that is concerned.
Well, RDIF is a good friend of ours. We've been talking to them for many months, and we were waiting for them to also progress, and they've developed an excellent manufacturing technology and platform now. They're very close to being licensed with Dr. Reddy's in India. Hopefully that'll happen over the next 1 month. And then they've partnered with 1 or 2 other companies as well in India. Look, their vision is also to be able to make as much vaccine for the world. And naturally, we are one of the partners that they and I both would be happy to work together. And we're talking about it. Let's see when some agreement actually comes about. But we've had ongoing discussions for a while now. And if we do make it, it will happen this year at some point. I just don't know about the timelines.
Which is the vaccine you are working on, which is a nasal vaccine? Is it Covishield?
Yes.
And so that's a game changer potentially, right? As in the case of Johnson & Johnson, if it's a nasal vaccine, people don't need to come back. You get efficacy within a few days, and that's done. Until you require a booster or whatever, we'll get to that later. So how is that important, for millions, not just in India, but around the world? A single dose vaccine.
So that's going to be a 1-dose nasal vaccine. As you said, game changer. But, that takes a lot more time to develop. We haven't had efficacy data anywhere in the world. We will have to develop that, as I said, from scratch, which we've already started the phase 1. The delivery mechanism also has to be developed in a way that it provides the right amount of vaccine all around your mucosa so that it prevents even the virus, when you get into contact with the virus, from entering your system. So we're hoping that vaccine not only is super convenient to administer, but also may cut transmission when you get infected. That's the whole point of an advantage of nasal vaccines.
Right.
So I hope that more nasal vaccines, we know some others are also developing them. We hope that, we launch those as soon as possible.
Yeah. Just 1 or 2 more questions. It must be so frenetic now at the Serum Institute, manufacturing at the rate that you are manufacturing. How stressed are your workers, are your people who are actually churning these out, knowing that every hour is important in this fight? We don't talk about, those in our companies who actually go about that business. It's so important to do that.
So, we're trying to take care of our staff and employees as much as possible, because not only are they under tremendous work hours and physical stress and pressure, but they also understand the mental stress that goes with, don't make a mistake, don't delay something where, it goes into millions of doses or dollars. We saw some companies in the West which had doses that had to be thrown away because of certain errors. Now those errors can happen at Serum Institute. Those mistakes can happen anywhere. And that's where we really need to ensure that every hour of production that we make, we don't have any mistakes. We don't rush anything. In fact, that was one of the explanations we gave the government of India, that we don't want to, under the garb of just ramping up in a crisis, make mistakes which could be more detrimental, to the existing supply. It's very easy to just say, let's add some more shifts. Let's do some things in a slightly different way. But that has so many risks in terms of quality and, contaminating a batch, which would then mean you lose those days of production. So that is why at least Serum Institute and all other vaccine producers have decided to adhere to those standards and principles above anything else. And that is where the real challenge is, that without compromising on quality, how does one scale up? And that is what we are all facing today.
All right. Well, Adar, huge job, indefinitely it appears. But thank you so much for speaking to us, spelling out where you stand as far as Covishield is concerned, and indeed the other vaccines. And hopefully one way or the other that funding does come about so that the supply can continue at the rate that India requires it.
Pleasure. Thank you.